So let me again welcome everybody. I want to thank you all for stopping by, for really getting engaged. I decided today we should be talking about the comfort zone for the simple reason that the goals we are trying to achieve is huge. What we are going after is big. And any time you are going after something big, you have to start from within. You have to start with yourself. Because you cannot give what you don't have. You hear me say that all the time. So if you are going to achieve these big goals that we do have aspirations of achieving, these big goals that we know within us is big, but we know we are counted to be part of the people that's going to make it happen, then we got to learn to conquer certain things in our life. And the immediate thing that I want to talk about today is the comfort zone. You know, the comfort zone is familiar to all of us. We think it's comfortable, but can I ask you, how comfortable is the comfort zone? How comfortable really is it? It might seem comfortable, but is it a bad spot? And I'll tell you, it really is. It's a bad spot. The comfort zone is far and away the single biggest dream killer of modern day life. We got in there, we got stuck in there, and coming out is a problem. And so as we look at this, like the context I want to place around it is results. You know, as a test, to bring everything back to our results, the question I think we need to ask ourselves is this. Whatever you've done up to now, can I say, how is that working out for you? Hey, it's a great question, you know. It really is. When you think about it, what you've done, if you think you're on the right track and you stay in your comfort zone, how is it working out for you? You see, we can spin a good story, but that question cuts through all our stories. You can say the reason why you are where you are, but when you go back to ask yourself that question, how is it working out for you? You see that it cuts right through the story. It leads right to the truth, our results. Because our results don't lie. The results you are getting in your life right now, it doesn't lie. You know, Andrew Carnegie said, he made a statement a long time ago. He said, I grow older. I pay less attention to what people say and more attention to what they do, which means actions matter. And I can tell you I relate to the same thing. Now I do not think about what anybody want to think about me or what anybody want to say about me. I just want to look at what their action is. I don't worry about what people say they are going to do. I really worry about what people actually do. So, you know, our results don't lie. There is something we normally say, talk is cheap. But getting busy is what separates the winners from the rest. Anybody can come out here and say what they are going to do and how they are going to do it and all that. But the actions we take is what separates us. So results is the name of the game. You know, all of us, every single one of us, we want to be happier. All of us want to be healthier. It's December now. Some of you are setting goals for next year. Everyone wants to do better than they are doing before. Everyone wants to be wealthier than they were before, don't we? We all want to change the results we are getting in some areas of our life. Now, this is going to be different for everyone, isn't it? The result you talk about is going to be different from the result that I talk about. You know, it could be money. It could be relationships. In fact, it could be the health of our physical body. It could be spiritual development that you are after. whatever it may be that you're after, I think the most important thing that you'll find is that most people would agree that we all have areas of our life that we would like to get better results in, don't we? So why don't we get better results then? I mean, I'm saying if you have an area that you know you want to get better results in, you know you want to do better at, so what's stopping us? Why don't we get better results? If that's what we want, why don't we do it? And you know, I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing. But when many of us look at our results, we tend to see our results as a reflection of our potential. And that seems like a natural thing to do. We look at what we are currently achieving and we accept. I mean, like consciously or unconsciously, we just accept that those results reflect not just what we are currently achieving, but all that we are ever capable of achieving. Let me say that again. When we look at what we are doing right now, when we look at the results we are getting right now, some of us think that the results we are getting actually represent all that we are ever capable of achieving in our life. After all, we are not stupid, are we? I mean, like, if you are capable of achieving more, surely you'll be doing it right now. Wouldn't you? And this actually appear to be the obvious answer. But do you know the obvious answers are often the wrong answers? The obvious answers are most often the wrong answers. And if you think about that for a moment, that would appear to kind of like make sense, doesn't it? Because the obvious answers tend to be the answers that most people come up with. And if you think about it, you will know that most people, by definition, are getting normal results. Let me tell you, normal results is not going to change where Africa is today. Normal results is what we are getting right now. Normal results is not going to change your condition where you are right now. People get average results. Average results is not going to do it for us. And this is probably not the results that we dream about for ourselves, not average. Because I know for sure that every single one of you in here today who is taking time to come and get better yourself is because you understand there is something out there bigger for you. There is something huge that you are meant to do. The only thing is, are you going to seek to do it or are you going to stop? So when you find yourself slipping into that thinking trap, I think we have to think, kind of ask ourselves, how is that working for you? How is it working for you? Think about it for yourself now. Like, what sort of life would you ideally like? Take a minute. Think about it. How many people do you know that are living that life that you would like to live? How many people do you know that are living that dream? I think the odds are good that we want something more than the average person on the street is getting, don't we? You know, one of the greatest writers I follow a lot, Harold Nightingale, he said that most people tend to order their steaks medium, and they live their lives exactly the same way. You know, there was a quote by John Maxwell in one of his books, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. We're going to be talking about that in the inner circle very shortly. You know, I can't remember it exactly, but it's something like there was this guy who went to a fortune teller or a prophet or whatever you call it to have his fortune told to him. And it says, the fortune teller came and he says, they do whatever they do, and he says to him, he said, you'll be poor and miserable until you are 45 years old. And the guy got excited because he thinks, if the guy said, well, you'll be poor and miserable until you are 45 years old, he's getting ready to say something else. And then he says, okay, then what happens after 45? And the fortune teller says, then you'll get used to it. Then you will get used to it. This is how most of us live our life. Oh my goodness. Think about it. What a horrible, depressing thought. Like when it's presented like that. But when it creeps up on you over years, it doesn't seem to so strange. When it creeps up on you, when you didn't think about it, when somebody didn't tell you that you are going to do real bad for 45 years, and then after that you just get used to it. You just accept it. That you know what? this is probably what my life is supposed to be. This is probably how I'm supposed to live my life. But think about when it creeps up on you over years. At that time, it doesn't seem so strange because gradually we accept mediocrity. Gradually we accept all those things we don't want, and then we switch our dreams and our hopes onto our children. It's too late for us, but maybe they can get it right. I mean, think about it. Hasn't your mother ever said to you, you are young, you've got the rest of your life ahead of you? Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Even a 90-year-old man still have the rest of their life ahead of them. Every single one of us still has the rest of our lives ahead of us. So I'm saying it's never too late to decide that we are not settling. It's never too late to decide that it's time for a growth spurt in our life. You never have to settle. It doesn't matter where you are right now. It doesn't matter what you're doing right now. It doesn't matter what your situation is right now. I'm telling you that you do not have to settle, because where you are right now is only the beginning. It's a springboard to where you can be. You know, I was listening to a healthy CD a little while ago, and on the CD, this guy was talking about some research that's relating to poison in our food. And he said that small amount of poisons are sometimes more dangerous than a large amount, because the body can pick up on the large amount and the body will process them right away. Either the person gets sick or whatever, and you go and treat yourself, throw up, do whatever you got to do to get better. But small amounts, they sneak under the radar. You know, they go unnoticed and they just build up over time. And that's what causes us problems. The small amounts. So think about it. What have we been doing in our life that we think, that we not even only think, that we know for sure that changes are coming, but that when that change comes, it's going to come in an amount of something that we are not expecting? What are we doing right now? What are you doing right now that you feel like, well, you know what, where you are is so more comfortable for you, that getting out of there is actually kind of a big problem? That is what the comfort zone is. The comfort zone is where dreams go to die. You know, the comfort zone is where we lose ourselves. We like totally lose ourselves. I've never done this, but there was a story that I read about a frog. I mean, think of a boiling water on a stove and you just throw a frog in it. That frog will jump out so quickly. But what if you put that frog in cold water and then you put that cold water on a stove and you turn you turn the fire on just a little bit, that the water is just changing little by little by little. Do you know that frog will die because it got adjusted? So what I'm trying to say to you guys is, talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Result is always going to be the name of the game. Our result is what is going to define exactly where we are, exactly what we are going to do in our life. So whatever we're working on, wherever you are right now, for whatever reason why you feel you are stuck where you are, I want you to start thinking of that being a comfort zone, but growth don't happen in comfort zones. You know, when many of us look at our results that we're getting right now, and we're looking at where we want to be in the very near future, whatever goals you set for yourself, you start becoming a reflection of where you want to be or what you are capable of doing. But what I want to let you know, what I'm saying is, you are really capable of doing more. We are capable of doing. It doesn't matter what. There's an exercise I normally do when I'm in front of people. I ask them to stand in a place and I ask them to point their finger and turn their whole body to an extent where they couldn't go further. And when they do that, I ask them to relax again, and then I ask them to try to do the same exercise, and I ask them to go 10% further than they ever did. Every single time they are able to do that, every single time. And the reason is because every single time we can always do more than where we are, what we've done. Anywhere where we are right now, we can always go further than we are. So again, I ask you, wherever you are right now, whatever results you're trying to change, how is it working out for you? Everything you've done right now, how is it working out for you? If you want more than what you are doing right now, and you go back to thinking of that quote by Harold Nightingale, why should we live an average life? Why would you want to really live an average life? And if you don't, then it's time to start thinking of coming out of your comfort zone. It's time to start thinking of, no matter what you've done for 45 years like that fortune teller, you don't want to get used to what you're already doing now. You want to make a change. Because when you hear the truth, when you hear the story, when it comes true, like it does with the fortune teller we were just talking about, what you realize is that in our life, that we gradually accept mediocrity in some form or the other. That in our life, sometimes we think it's too late for us. And we try to pass that dream on to the next generation, but it's never did. You know, my friends, there is a restaurant right now that's it's all over the world, KFC. You probably have heard about it. You've eaten there. You've seen it, Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was started by a man called Colonel Sanders. And Colonel Sanders was 67 years old when he first thought about it. He was 69 when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. And Kentucky Fried Chicken has gone right around the world. So you got to think about this, that you've got the rest of your life. It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are right now, that you've got the rest of your life to achieve that which you want to achieve, and you have to start making that decision right now. So it's never too late to decide that we're not settling. It is never too late to say that it's time for you to just start to grow. That it's time for you to start to grow. No matter what it is, you don't want to be in a situation where you get used to where you are right now. You don't want to be in that situation. Sometimes there are things more dangerous than than not growing. But I tell you, growth will be the only answer, and the only way you're going to grow is when you come out of that comfort zone. Remember the example I just cited about little poison causing a big thing, or the example of boiling a frog and getting used to the temperature. This is what happens when we're in a comfort zone. Because over time, little changes make a big difference. That's what happened with the frog. Over time, the frog has said that it doesn't move. Apparently, obviously, it died eventually, accepting death little by little. Apparently, in the case of the frog, the water can be heated up slowly to boiling point and it will be accepted. How often do we do this in our lives? Think about the things we put up with because we've gradually grown to be like that. And we've got used to them. They are familiar to us. We've even become comfortable in our discomfort. You know, there is something that happens in most parts of Africa. And if you've been out of Africa for a minute and you live somewhere where you are used to have electricity, for instance, all the time, when the light goes up for 10 seconds, I mean, you're actually getting on the call and you are making calls. But when we are in a part of the world where when you get power is something we celebrate. I was spending time with my friends at one time, I think we were somewhere, and the power went off. And I was getting ready to like go crazy and say, well, what is going on here? And then all of a sudden the power came back and everybody was celebrating. Hey, up NEPA. I'm like, for what? For doing their job? So, you know, we have to think about these things. Relationships, finances, health, all kind of dreams that we have. Sometimes is gradually eroded till there's practically nothing left because we get used to it. You know, because we get used to celebrating mediocrity. We get used to celebrating little things. We just live in that comfort zone until it got to a time that can really hurt us or even eventually kill us. How is that working for us? How is that working for us? You know, if we are starting afresh, we'll never tolerate it. But having grown used to it, we barely notice now. And this applies to all areas of our life. You know, to a lot of people, to most people. And when we think about our results in these different key areas of life, it's a sad fact. You know, it's a sad fact that the majority of people are going the wrong way, and they always have. You know, they take their lead from around them. They take comfort in being part of the crowd, in copying their action, in seeking the opinions and following their advice, and ultimately, therefore, getting much of the same kind of results that everybody else is getting, because that's where they're getting the advices from. Aaron Nightingale referred to that as self-defeating cycle of the poor. It's like asking people who are getting the same result as you what they think you should be doing. I mean, think about that. Think about that. When we stop and we think about it, it doesn't make sense, doesn't it? It doesn't make sense at all. Because the problem is, you are trying to learn something, you are trying to do better, but we are asking people who are doing exactly the same thing that we are doing, who are getting exactly the same result that we are getting, how we should do something that they haven't been successful at. And we all do it. Surely it just makes no sense to seek the opinion of someone who has demonstrated by their results that they know nothing about what they are talking about. How do we ask? How do we ask? How do we even do that? If someone is not getting the result we want, why on earth would we ask that person for advice or even pay any attention to their opinions? Excuse me. Do you know this is so common these days? I mean, the COVID pandemic exposed that. When on social media all over the place, you have people talking about what they don't know. And you have the majority of the people taking medical advice from somebody they saw on the internet who doesn't know what they are talking about. The truth is, these kind of people, they're just going to lead us in the same direction that they are going. And we're going to end up going round and round and round in all the same directions. So I'm saying to you, how is it working out for you? Would you prefer to walk around in circles because you are asking people who have no opinions of what you're doing or how to do it to teach you something that you're trying to do? I did this for years. I'm sure many of you have too. I'll go and ask someone, like what to do in a situation, in an area where they too are getting terrible results. It just doesn't make sense, does it? But I did it. I did it because their answers were comfortable to me. The answer they give me is what I want to hear. It's convenient. It's convenient, isn't it? It's comfortable. It's familiar to ask the people around us for help when we need it, because the people, the things, and the circumstances that we are surrounded by are part of our comfort zone. We know where we are here. We don't need to think too much. Unfortunately, though, settling for the comfort zone means, now listen to this, listen very carefully, because it's depressing. It means that we are today all that we are ever going to be. Can I repeat that? Because that kind of is sad. That kind of just take you to a different level. That when you settle for the comfort zone, what you really are saying is that's all you are ever going to be. Because if you want to be more than you are right now, then you have to come out of that comfort zone. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that quite a disturbing thought. When we stop stretching, when we stop reaching, when we stop seeking and risking, we actually stop growing. And if we are not growing, then we are shrinking. It doesn't mean to, it doesn't matter what level you are at. You could be earning $50,000 a day, or you be earning $50,000 a year. We all get stuck at some point. And when you get stuck at times, you don't really, it doesn't make a difference. But do we move on? Or do we languish where we are stuck? You see, in our comfort zone, almost all of our actions are driven by habit. And habits are actions that express themselves without any conscious awareness. You see, when you are acting habitually, listen to this. When you are acting habitually, our conscious mind is free to think of something else. Because whatever you are doing it out of habit. So you can be thinking something else. Your conscious mind can be somewhere else, while you are doing whatever you are doing out of habit. Like those of you who know how to drive a car or a bicycle, you'll be able to relate to this example. You are driving in your car. Maybe you are going like 70 kilometers per hour. Maybe 100 kilometers per hour. You're driving, you're just going on your own. You are steering with your knees while you dial somebody else on your mobile phone. And you are thinking about what you are going to say when you get through. Well, if you are thinking about what you are going to say, then you are not thinking about driving the car, are you? So who's driving? Who's driving that car? Well, obviously you are. But you are driving the car through actions that you've delegated to habits years ago. You are driving that car unconsciously. You see, habits are extremely useful. They are non-adaptive. In a recent article that I read, the author put it beautifully when he said, our habits have an IQ of 0. Think about that. Our habits have an IQ of 0. Habits have no intelligence. They do what they've been programmed to do. They are learned behaviors. They are routines. Now, as I said, they are extremely useful. Routines are useful. But habitual behaviors, habitual behaviors, they perform as they were set up to perform. Not necessarily in the way that best suits the current situation. There are various studies that place estimates of the amount of our daily actions that are habitual at probably about 80 to 90%. Think about this for a minute. Think about it. Well, I think I'll just keep quiet for 30 seconds and allow you to think about that. Let me repeat it. That up to 80 to 90% of everything we do on a daily basis is done by habit. We do it because we have always done it like that. You wake up on the right side of the bed and you get off the same side of bed every day because that's what you have always done. When you put on your shirt, you put it on exactly the same way. You don't think about it. When you put on your pants, if you are a right hand person, you put on the left foot first, and you never think about it. You do the same thing every single day. So think about this, because this is very important. This is saying we only use our brains like 10 to 20% in everything that we do, because everything else that we do, we have delegated it to habits. Almost all of what we do, we don't think about. Just think about that. I know you know this, but think about with me that almost everything we do, we don't think about. Almost everything we do, we are on autopilot. You see, habits are one of the two key things that keep us hanging in our comfort zone. They keep us doing the same things over and over, and so they keep us getting the same results over and over. But we are comfortable living by habit because it means we don't need to think. And thinking, my friend, is hard work. I started doing an exercise on thinking a few years ago after spending some time with John, and he encouraged us to think intentionally. He encouraged us to have a thinking place in our house, to put a chair somewhere that you only sit on that chair when you want to think. Because, my friends, thinking is hard work. We don't need to make too many new decisions in the comfort zone. We don't perceive any real risk. And not taking any risk appeal to us. Have you heard this quote before? That most people tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely to death. Most people tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely to death. But we can't get away from risk. There is risk in everything. There is risk to everything, especially to the comfort zone. JFK said there are risks and costs to a plan of action, but they are far less than the long-range risk and cost of comfortable inaction. Simply saying there is a risk in taking action, but the risk in taking action is far less than the risk of not taking action. It's far less than the risk of staying in the comfort zone. Last week, I was unfortunate on Friday, on Wednesday, to be able to get a booster shot for COVID. And while I am getting my booster shot for COVID, there is a lady that's there that have her mouth covered with everything and is telling me, why would I even do that? I don't know what's in it. And I'm thinking to myself, the risk of getting a vaccine that I feel is going to protect me, when I've seen several people, a few of them that I know, died of a certain thing, is less. That's just me, though. That's just me. So, like the man in the boat, casually watching the passing scenery as it floats blissfully unaware towards the waterfall. It's like rowing upstream. Rowing upstream is hard work. Floating downstream is comfortable. But for how long? For how long? Maybe there are more risks to the comfort zone than meet the eye. I don't know. But the comfort zone might be comfortable, but it's a very bad spot. Every single one of us is, if you are floating down on our stream in some areas of our life, when are we going to set out for where we really want to go? When? Where is your boat floating as you casually watch the passing scenery? We may not know exactly where we are floating to, but what we do know is this: water only ever flows in one direction, and it's not up. So if you are coasting, we are coasting downwards. If things aren't good now, they won't get better by accident. You have to take action. I had someone once say, if you're on the right road, you're on the right road because it's uphill. because it's hard, because you are sweating. You've got to be on the right road if you are sweating. If everything is coming to you easy, if you are just floating, you are just going to bed tonight and wake up and do the same thing over without stretching yourself, you are in the comfort zone. The comfort zone is not a good place to be. You see, when you are here today, when you are participating, you are taking time to grow yourself, and when you are here to learn, to think, to talk about how to get out of the comfort zone, you are doing something. You are taking action. You are bettering yourself. I think many of us are much like that man in the boat, except even worse, that enjoy the passing scenery. A good portion of us are busily pointing out the weeds and complaining about the other boats are charging in the opposite direction. We see the other boats on a mission, and we are still drifting downwards while complaining on somebody drifting upwards or speeding by us. The waterfalls, mind you, but we're still complaining all the way to anyone who will listen. Do you know anybody like that? Do you know anyone who is like that? You may have heard of a guy named Abraham Maslow, Maslow. You can Google him. I mean, he had this famous hierarchy of needs. Well, he came to the conclusion that we all have infinite potentials, and that means that from where we are today, wherever that may be, listen very carefully to this. If you didn't hear anything else I say, please listen very carefully to this, that wherever you are today, from where we are today, we can keep growing in any direction that we want to grow. And that we can keep growing for the rest of our lives until the last day of our life. That every day we can become more than we were yesterday. Though, as Thomas Troward said, an orderly sequence of growth. You see, growth is intentional. Growth is what you do when you get on the phone to learn something, or when you turn on your computer to learn something so that you can change something about your results. I love that expression, an orderly sequence of growth. Not by magic, not by luck, not overnight, but through an orderly sequence of growth. Now, whether you accept we all have infinite potential or not, it's not necessarily that important right now, but the more we think about those things, the more we come to the conclusion that it's not what we can do that is important. It's what we will do. You see, what we can do is hypothetical. What we will do, that's what is important. Whatever our potential is, we only use a fraction of it. There is plenty more for us to cultivate. So the bottom line though is this. In order to grow, we must get out of our comfort zone. Because growth occurs outside of the comfort zone, not in it. It's weathering the discomfort that is responsible for the growth. You have the expression like strong timber does not grow easy, or something like calm seas never made a great sailor. Well, it's battling against and overcoming something that leads to the growth. And my friends, growth is good. So, struggle, confusion, pain, discomfort, fear, these are all signs that we are growing. And so they are good signs. So you should welcome them, not avoid them. In fact, if you want to grow quickly, you should actively seek them out. Get uncomfortable on a regular basis. Maybe that sounds strange, doesn't it? But it's exactly what we need to do. Get uncomfortable. So let me ask you a question. What have you done today that is unfamiliar? What have you done today that is inconvenient? That is uncomfortable? So, one of the two things that keep us stuck in the comfort zone is habit. And we've got to get in the habit of getting out of the habit. Let me say that again. Habit keep you in the comfort zone. Because remember, everything that we do is about 90% habit. Everything that we do, we have said that already, is about 90% habits. Only 10 to 20% of the stuff we do are things that are new. So we need to get in the habit of getting uncomfortable. Get in the habit of getting out of the habit of being comfortable. The second thing is this. The second thing that keeps us stuck, that's even more insidious, and that is belief. You see, beliefs and habits keep us penned up in the status quo. Both of them, though, they only really exist in one place. And they exist in a place within our control, inside our minds. Inside our minds. You know? To illustrate this, let me give you a kind of an example that you can relate with. I was at some point, I was coaching somebody a couple months ago. You know, they were telling me of their dream to have a house in the country. For this person, the only problem was, she said she didn't have the money. But then, she quickly added that she was committed to getting it. So I asked her how she was going to get that money. Then she said she didn't know, as she tried everything. So we then went on and we explored what everything meant. And we looked at a couple of options. She explained that she couldn't get any more money in her current job. And then I asked her to consider that whether that statement was right or wrong. Stick with me for a minute, please. She said the job where she's at, she couldn't make any more money. So we talked about it. I said, is that statement right or wrong? That it was something that she believed. She believed that. And she agreed that it was a belief. But that she knew that it was correct. And then I asked her what her thoughts were on certain or multiple sources of income. And she explained that she only had 2, maybe 3 hours a week of spare time. So she couldn't do anything else. So I asked her to consider that was a belief that she held. And she agreed that yes, that was a belief. Although she looked at me like I was mad. Then we all got, you see, every one of us, we all got our own story, haven't we? So convincing. And that's part of the illusion. Anyway, we went on and I suggested that there were people doing what she was doing, earning twice as much money, and then she agreed that yes, there were people doing exactly what she was doing, earning twice. I said, why do you think that is? And she said, oh, that they were much more intelligent than she was. I asked her again to consider that, is this a belief that she held? She was now getting unsettled. even slightly irritated by my responses. And she replied that, of course, it was a belief, and it was true. You see, most people have difficulty distinguishing what they believe with reality. I suggest that the people in her field who were handing more money than she was may not necessarily be more intelligent than her, but that they were providing more service, maybe through specialized knowledge, or indispensably cultivating key relationships, focusing on key result areas, maybe by managing a team of people like her, doing what she was currently doing. She quickly replied that she couldn't do management. I asked her why. She said because she doesn't like dealing with people. So I look at her and again, as she said that I know what she was going to say. As she looked at me, she said, yeah, that's a belief. Because she knows what the question I was going to ask. She said that was a belief. Then we then spend some time evaluating each of those beliefs to see if they actually held water. You see, like habits, our beliefs are stored in our subconscious mind. This means by definition, they are below our level of consciousness. That means that we are not necessarily aware of what we believe until we, or maybe you have a good coach, questions all your beliefs. You see, questions are a great way of digging into the subconscious mind to find out what we really believe. Now, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And the more we reevaluate our beliefs, the more likely they have to change. Because beliefs that hold us back from moving in the direction that we would like to go are called self-limiting beliefs or unhealthy beliefs. You know, I love what Dr. Albert said. Is a behavior therapy. It's a behavior therapy useful in really understanding about the nature of beliefs and healthy and unhealthy beliefs, because there are some beliefs that are healthy and there are those that are not. We'll come back to beliefs in more detail, but for now, I think it's useful to consider their roles with regard to our comfort zone. And like the lady in the example I just gave, a big part of our problem is in assuming that our beliefs reflect a single reality, rather than seeing them simply as the result of a learning process. That's a good example of how comically wrong they can be. Did you know that the first thing that a dog sees when it comes out of its egg is considered to be its mother? Do you know that? In fact, there is a video right now on YouTube that you guys can Google and you will see. It could be a dog, it could be a cat, it could be a human being. But whatever it first sees is mom. Now, this process serves the dog well, 99.9999% of the time. But you can see the limitations in the process, can't you? It's called imprinting. It's a process that leads to an unshakable belief in that little dog. And so I encourage you guys to, after we finish this, go and Google imprinting of a dog on YouTube. And you'll see a human being that actually pretended like it's a dog, because when that dog came out of the egg, the shell, the first thing they saw was this human being. And so that becomes mom. Now, if the dog stopped and if reflected for a minute and asked herself or himself, how is that working for you? You may conclude he's perfectly happy with his results. So why change the belief? Why change the belief? My friends, Our beliefs are slightly more complicated in their formation, but they are just as fallible. You know, they can be just as comical. You see, our beliefs are the result of a learning process, not necessarily a reflection of reality. And it's the beliefs that we hold that tend to keep us conveniently tucked in our comfort zone. Now, we can't examine everything we believe, and really there is no need to do that. But we do need to examine certain beliefs that are stopping us from moving forward towards our goals. For example, if I want to be a stand-up comedian, but I believe that I'm genetically shy and I can't do public speaking, that belief is probably going to stand in my way more than anything else. But what if I'm serious about being a comic? Then sensibly, that's probably the first thing I need to examine and ask myself, how is that working for me? Is it logical? Is it based in reality? And is it helping me? And if not, it may have to go. So, my friends, there is a process to change, just like a process to acquiring beliefs in the first place. It takes decision, it takes commitment, a goal or reason to change, and the understanding of the obstacles that will be faced on the way. There is a strategy to stop through the terror barriers that will emerge. Persistence, a shift in attitude. There is a system to successful change. Now, this is more difficult than it sounds, and typically we found that people generally need some good information. People generally need a good coach to help them with the process, or ideally both. But you always need a third-party perspective that can really help. How many times have you looked at somebody else's life and you've seen everything? You've seen all the problems, all the things that they need to change. It's so obvious in somebody else's life, isn't it? But it's much more difficult to see in ourselves, because much of what we do is habitual. That's why my friend John Wesley says, you can't see the picture if you are the one in the frame. They all lie below the level of consciousness. So, my friends, someone looking in can more easily identify those things that are holding us back. Somebody else can tell you. And it's just not with regard to our life that a good coach can fast track our success. Think of sports. You know, I remember when I used to play table tennis a long time ago, and my coach pointed out to me on my first session a couple of things that I was doing wrong, that I could change, that were really holding me back. Sometimes it's just a few bad habits, but other times I just need to change a little stroke, and boom, I'm off in a whole new direction. I went skiing years ago, and a friend, Tom, was running around looking for his goggles. I mean, he was getting more and more annoyed, and we couldn't take him seriously because we thought he knew he had them on his head. Everyone could see the obvious, apart from him. I've literally run around with a tape measure in my head looking for my tape measure. Just yesterday, I have my glasses on my head of my shirt, and I was asking everybody around, have they seen my glasses? These are things we do by habit. So think about it. How is it working for you? You see, I can't see mine, but I can see yours, and you can see mine. Anyway, so as I said, formation of beliefs is part of our learning process. We are pretty much, all of us, the product of our environment. You know, we have learned to fit in with our environment. Think of language. We learn the language or the languages that are going on around us to fit into our environment, don't we? Now, think about if you put a child in an English speaking home, what language will they learn? Put the same child in a Swahili speaking home, what language will they learn? Put a child in a Hebrew speaking home, what language will that child speak? And if the same child is put in a wealthy home, what habits and beliefs will they likely acquire? Just soak it up. Nearly all welfare recipients are second, third, fourth generation welfare recipients in America. Why? Well, that's the environment they grow up in. They go to the same places. They read the same things. They talk to the same people. They do the same things. And so the most natural thing in the world for someone growing up in that environment is to fit right in. And part of this process of fitting in is the accumulation of beliefs, like the dog, through a learning process. All of this information that's programmed into our subconscious mind we refer to as our paradigm. Now, we may not have been responsible for the creation of our paradigm, but understand this though. Now, this is probably the most important thing that I'm going to say. I know I say that often, but this one is, we weren't responsible for acquiring it, but it's our responsibility to change it. If we want something different to what we've been getting, then it's our responsibility to change our paradigm. No one is going to do that for us. If we're going to change, then we need to accept full responsibility for changing our paradigm. Now, I said what we believe is the result of learning process. And so we can learn new beliefs through a similar process. And some of you right now are probably thinking, why would I want to change what I believe? Because we tend to assume that what we believe is a reflection of reality. But reality isn't the result of a learning process and the creator of our reality. And there is such an enormous difference between the two. You know, I remember a while ago doing a seminar where someone in the front row fell asleep, mouth open, leaning over, dribbling on the aisle. I mean, the whole thing. There is a difference observing that event and interpreting that event. And evaluating that event and making a personalized conclusion to observing the event. What do I mean? Well, she might have been tired. That's one. But if I conclude the only reason she fell asleep was because I'm a poor speaker and I'm going well beyond the available information, and if it wasn't an emotional experience that holds even, more danger for me. There are two things. She could have been tired, or maybe I was just so boring that she fell asleep. But which one is true? You see, beliefs are formed through repetition and emotion. And the more emotion, the more powerful the belief, and the more power it holds over us. We all believe millions of things that we are not necessarily consciously aware of. And these things can stop us from moving in the direction that we really want to go. So the question is this: how many times have we gone beyond the available information? How many times have we made an incorrect assumption? How many times? You see, me, I'm not good at math. Money makes money. True leaders are born that way. I could never be be good at sales. I don't have the gift of the gab. All men are this. You fill in the blanks. We say it all the time. And the startling thing is, beliefs then appear to be self-evident, because as we adopt those beliefs, they become true for us. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You see, experiences can be incredibly useful for learning. That is, if we reflect. Look, for instance, learn and grow. Incorporate our growth in our next experience. And then I think we should do this whether we see someone asleep in the front row or not. Habits, they have such a key role in our life, and beliefs, they have such a powerful role in our lives. They affect what we notice in the first place. They affect how we then interpret what we notice. They affect what we expect, what we do, and then how we explain to ourselves the results of what we do. And then as sort of a self-preservation mechanism, our confirmation bias. So when something happens that you are expecting to happen, then we tend to ignore everything that doesn't support the belief. And we highlight everything that reinforces that belief, thereby practically guaranteeing its existence from then on. So, if our beliefs and our habits are responsible to such an extent for the results that we get in life, then surely it makes sense. It makes sense to cultivate habits that are going to take us in the direction that we want to go, and to adopt beliefs that enable us to believe that we are going to get there. So if the results we get in our lives are consistent with our comfort zone, and we don't like the results that we are getting, then it's time for a new comfort zone. So here's a simple formula for you. I call it the formula for success. Get outside your comfort zone and stay there till you get comfortable again. Then repeat and keep on repeating and keep on growing into bigger and better. Keep on becoming more capable and more productive you. And that will never stop. We all can grow, my friend. And here, just a final thought. What is the secret of happiness? What is the secret of happiness? You know, my mentor, John Maxwell, he summed it up as growth. Aaron Nightingale, he said, the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. I think that's growth. How about Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of England, said, when you look back at the days you've been really happy, they are not the days when you sit in front of the TV. They are the days when you had everything to do and you did it. The comfort zone, my friend, may appear to be comfortable in the short term. But then, I'm going to say to you, over time, how is it working for you? How is it working for you? So if you want to grow, if we are going to achieve the goals that we set out to achieve with Project 54, you, me, Ibrahim, John, Funlayo, Beatrice, Sylvester, Jude, we all have to get out of our comfort zones. We all have to make that move and come out of our comfort zone. Yeah. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zone. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. Yeah. I want us to start preparing to just grow. Figure out what it is. What is the belief that's got to change? One of the things we have coming up in the future is going to be how to change your belief. Because when you change your belief, it's really when growth starts. Thank you very much. I know this is a long lesson, but I tell you, it is so important to realize that when you are comfortable, you are not growing. When you are comfortable, you are not growing. When you are uncomfortable, some growth is happening. You might see it, you might not, but it is. Thank you very much, everybody. I think I will open it for questions and answer, and we will have a midweek just discussions on our comfort zone and everything we've done so far. Next week, we will be talking about the terror barrier. Midweek, we might start a session. I will consult with Tabitha for the people whose applications have already been accepted, because we know these are going to grow very quickly, so we need to start doing some other stuff to help us get to where we want to be. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to hand it over to the moderators now for questions and answers. Okay, can somebody unmute and just let me know that you're still hearing me? Because it looks like
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm hearing you. We're hearing you, sir.
oh, okay, good. All right. Do we have any questions?
Do you have any question?
All right. I guess that's a lot for us to process. I hope you guys have you get the workbook, you have the worksheet. You can always send a question and answer in if you do have something. But what's more important to me is that we realize that the comfort zone is not really very comfortable. And so if we are going to grow, if we're going to achieve what we are aiming for, the first thing we need to start doing is getting out of that comfort zone. If there are no questions, that means we got work.
I'm still there. Foundation member.
Enjoy yourself. I'm within.
Thank you very much, everybody. We will get together again during the week to let you know what sequence we will be going after. But don't make this a lesson that just go by the wayside. Go back and look at the worksheet that you have. If you have questions on something you missed on the worksheet, you can send an answer in through the WhatsApp chat, and I will be glad to respond to you. But I really want us to start preparing to grow, because guess what? We can't give what we don't have. Thank you very much, everybody.